Professor Zixthera adjusted her crystalline teaching apparatus as the mixed group of alien students settled into their biopods around the holographic display table. The Galactic University's xenobiology course had attracted students from 12 different species this semester, all eager to learn about the mysterious Deathworld species that had recently joined the Galactic Federation. Today, Zixthera announced, her forearms gesturing toward the rotating blue-green planet in the hologram. We study Earth, what many of you know as Doomworld Terra 3. Who can tell me why it earned this designation? A Vorthax student, his gelatinous form rippling with excitement, spoke first. Because it's classified as a class-tween Deathworld, Professor. The gravity alone would crush most of us. Excellent start, Gloopnash, but that's merely the beginning. The professor manipulated the hologram, zooming in on Earth's surface. Let's examine what we initially discovered about this planet. The display showed Earth statistics, gravity nearly twice the galactic average, atmospheric pressure that would implode most species' respiratory systems, and a star that bombarded the planet with radiation levels considered lethal by Federation standards. Cassandra, a delicate Sylvani whose plant-like features trembled at the sight, raised a tendril. Professor, how does anything survive there? The atmospheric composition shows 21% oxygen. That's practically explosive. An astute observation. Most Federation worlds maintain oxygen levels between 8 to 12%. Now, class, observe what thrives in this environment. The hologram shifted to show various Earth creatures. A grizzly bear catching salmon, a peregrine falcon diving at impossible speeds, and a great white shark cutting through ocean waters. The students' various forms of gasping, clicking, and harmonic vibrations filled the room. Professor Zixthera continued. But the most remarkable discovery wasn't the planet itself, it was the species that not only survived but dominated this hellscape. Humans. She displayed a human figure next to average representations of other sapient species. Notice the dense bone structure, designed to withstand crushing gravity. The redundant organ systems, they have backup kidneys, can survive with partial brain damage, and their cardiovascular system can adapt to extreme pressure changes. Their skin secretes water for temperature regulation, a process that would dehydrate most of us to death. Young Pipsqueak, a diminutive Nari whose species evolved on low-gravity worlds, chittered nervously. But Professor, surely they must be slow and clumsy with all that density. Observe. The hologram showed footage from human athletic competitions. Olympic sprinters reaching speeds that would require mechanical enhancement for most species, gymnasts defying gravity with impossible flexibility, and swimmers moving through water with predatory grace. By the Seven Suns, whispered Threximus, a proud centaurian whose species considered themselves the galaxy's finest warriors. They're built like living weapons, indeed, but their physical adaptations pale compared to their psychological ones. Class, what is the most dangerous trait a sapient species can possess? The students offered various answers: intelligence, aggression, territoriality, but Professor Zixthera shook her head to each. Persistence, she said finally. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would select prey and simply follow it for hours, sometimes days. Their prey would run, hide, fight, but eventually collapse from exhaustion. Humans would just keep coming. She showed ancient footage of human hunter-gatherers, then modern footage of human marathon runners, mountain climbers, and deep-sea explorers. This trait translated into their space age. When their first deep space missions failed, they tried again. When their colonies were destroyed by cosmic disasters, they rebuilt. When we told them certain sectors of space were too dangerous for exploration, they volunteered to map them. Selenthara, an elderly Altarian exchange student, spoke thoughtfully. This explains the incident reports we've received. Humans volunteering for suicide missions and surviving them? Precisely. Let me share a recent example. The hologram displayed a space station drifting near a pulsar. Research Station Omega-7 suffered catastrophic decompression after a meteor strike. The crew of 12 various species was presumed lost. Federation rescue ships couldn't approach due to radiation and gravitational shear. The display showed a small human vessel approaching the station. A single human mining ship ignored direct orders and attempted rescue. The pilot, Sarah Chen, manually docked with a tumbling radiated structure that should have been impossible to board. She found 11 crew members in emergency stasis, their life support failing. The students watched in stunned silence as the footage showed a spacesuited figure moving through the devastated station. Chen made 17 trips between the ships, carrying crew members one by one through hard vacuum and lethal radiation. By the time she finished, her own ship's systems were failing, and her radiation exposure was considered fatal by our medical standards. "Did she survive?" Pipsqueak asked quietly. "She spent 2 weeks in a Federation medical facility, recovered completely, and returned to duty." When asked why she risked certain death for non-human crew members, her response was, the professor paused, accessing her files. They needed help. The classroom was silent except for the hum of life support systems. This class is why Earth is called a Doomworld, not just because it's hostile to life, but because it breeds a species that sees impossibility as merely inconvenient. They don't just survive their world's dangers, they seek out new ones. They've turned survival into an art form and helping others into instinct. Professor Zixathara noticed the thoughtful expressions, or equivalent, on her students' faces. Your assignment for next session: research human cultural concepts of heroism and sacrifice. Try to understand why a species that should logically prioritize individual survival above all else consistently chooses the opposite. As the students filed out, chattering in their various languages about what they'd learned, Professor Zixathara reflected on her own species' first contact with humans. The Christerians had initially dismissed them as primitive Deathworld barbarians. Now, 3 human ships patrolled Christerian space, their crews volunteering to protect a species they'd met only 5 years ago. When asked why, the human admiral had simply said, "Because you're our friends now." The professor smiled, a facial expression she'd learned from humans, and began preparing tomorrow's lesson on human pack bonding behaviors. Her students were going to need another day to process that particular evolutionary madness. Outside her window, a human courier ship was docking with the space station, its pilot probably delivering supplies to some remote colony that other species considered too dangerous to support. Just another day in the life of the galaxy's most impossibly helpful apex predators.